Every story carries a lesson. Welcome to True Wisdom Tales. The boy everyone called useless, until he didn't stop trying. Jacob Turner was the kind of kid people forgot existed, not because he was quiet, but because no one expected anything from him. In school, he was always the boy, sitting at the last desk, the boy whose test papers came back covered in red marks, the boy teachers shook their heads at as if he were a problem no one knew how to solve. And on one cold Monday morning, when the teacher handed back the math tests, she paused at Jacob's desk longer than usual. The class went silent. She placed his paper down with a sigh, the kind of sigh adults use when they've given up. Then she said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Jacob, maybe academics just aren't for you." A few students laughed. Someone whispered, "He's useless." Another voice followed, "He'll never be good at anything." Their words weren't just insults. They were labels, heavy labels, and Jacob carried them home in silence, feeling them stick to his skin like glue. That afternoon, Jacob walked into his room and closed the door. The house was quiet, the kind of quiet that makes you think too much. He sat on the edge of his bed staring at the test paper. 27%. He traced the number with his finger as if touching it would make it disappear. For a long time, he did nothing. He sat, breathed, and replayed the teacher's words again and again. He wasn't angry, he wasn't even sad. He felt something deeper, like the world had already decided who he was supposed to be, a failure. And yet, something inside him tightened, a small spark he didn't understand. He picked up a worn-out notebook, flipped to a blank page, and whispered to himself, "What if I can get better? Just a little, not a big dream, not a heroic moment, just a tiny decision in a quiet room. 1% better. That's all." From that day on, Jacob changed, but not in a dramatic, movie-like way. There were no motivational speeches, no cheering crowds. It was just him, sitting at his desk every morning before school, practicing the same math problems again and again. He got them wrong. A lot. Sometimes he'd stare at a single equation for 30 minutes until frustration burned behind his eyes, but he kept going. After dinner, he would return to the same spot, open the same notebook, and try once more. His parents didn't pressure him. In fact, they didn't even know how badly he was struggling. Jacob didn't talk about it. This wasn't about proving something to the world. It was about proving something to himself that maybe, just maybe, he wasn't as useless as everyone said. Weeks passed, then months, and though the world around him stayed the same, something subtle changed inside him. The problems that once felt impossible began to make sense. The numbers that looked like foreign symbols slowly turned into something familiar. He didn't magically become a genius, but he learned something far more powerful. Consistency creates miracles the world can't see. The kids at school still laughed at him sometimes. The teacher still didn't expect much from him, but Jacob kept showing up every morning, every night. Every single day adding one tiny brick to the foundation of a comeback no one knew was coming. One spring morning, the school announced a district-level math challenge. It was the kind of competition only smart kids signed up for. Students with perfect grades, impressive homework, and the confidence to match. When Jacob walked to the sign-up sheet, a few students snickered. One even said, "Bro, don't embarrass yourself." The teacher looked hesitant too and tried to gently suggest he focus on improving quietly instead. But Jacob simply signed his name and walked away. He wasn't confident. He wasn't fearless. He was just tired of living in the shadow of other people's expectations. The day of the competition arrived faster than he expected. The room was filled with the best students from different schools, kids who solved equations like breathing. Jacob sat at his desk, hands slightly shaking. The moment the test paper landed in front of him, his stomach twisted. But then something unexpected happened. As he scanned the first problem, his mind didn't freeze the way it used to. His pencil moved, slowly at first, then faster. Problem after problem, something clicked. All those lonely nights, all the frustration, all the tiny improvements, they formed a quiet army behind him. He didn't notice the other competitors struggling. He didn't hear the whispers. He was lost in the work, focused in a way he had never been before. When time ran out, Jacob felt both proud and terrified. He had done his best, truly. Hours later, when the judges returned with the results, the room shifted. Murmurs spread like wildfire. The principal stepped onto the stage and announced the top scorers. Third place, not Jacob. Second place, still not Jacob. A few students smirked, assuming he failed again, and then the room fell silent as the principal read the final name. First place, Jacob Turner. The shock was instant. His classmates stared at him with wide eyes. The teacher who once doubted him walked slowly toward him, her expression softening with every step. She placed a hand on his shoulder and said, "Jacob, I was wrong about you." In that moment, Jacob didn't feel triumph or revenge. He didn't look around to see who doubted him. He didn't feel the need to prove anyone wrong. What he felt was pride, quiet, steady pride. The kind that comes from fighting a battle no one else sees. He whispered to himself, "This is what happens when you don't stop trying." And he was right. His victory wasn't built on talent. It wasn't built on praise. It was built on tiny steps, consistent effort, and the belief that improvement is always possible, no matter how small. Jacob became a symbol in his school not of brilliance, but of persistence. Teachers began using his story to motivate other struggling students. Parents told their kids about the boy who never gave up. But Jacob didn't do any of this for fame. He continued studying with the same quiet determination, knowing he still had a long way to go. His story spread not because he was extraordinary, but because he proved something universal. You don't need people to believe in you. You just need to believe in daily effort. The world loves to label people, but labels only stick if you let them. Years later, when Jacob graduated with honors, he remembered the words that once crushed him, useless, and realized they no longer had any power. He had rewritten his story through discipline, patience, and small, consistent steps. His journey taught one timeless truth: greatness doesn't start loud, it starts quietly, in the moments when no one is watching. And remember, Jacob wasn't special because he was gifted. He was special because he refused to quit. If he can make a comeback from nothing, then so can you. Your story isn't over, not yet. Thanks for watching. If this story inspired you, don't forget to subscribe for more wisdom.